హలో గైస్, మీరు జాబ్ ఇంటర్వ్యూకి ప్రిపేర్ అవుతున్నారా? జావా, ఎస్క్యూఎల్ లాంటి కోర్సెస్ నేర్చుకోవాలనుకుంటున్నారా? అయితే నా ఛానల్ సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేసుకొని పక్కనే ఉన్న బెల్ ఐకాన్ క్లిక్ చేయండి. నేను వీడియో పెట్టగానే మీకు నోటిఫికేషన్ వచ్చేస్తుంది.
So in Java, our next concept is constructors. So before going into constructor, so we already seen this one, how to create the object. So before going into the constructor method, we will see without constructor how the things, and with constructor how we can use the classes. First, I am creating a project for constructor. I'm just creating one class, employee, no main method, nothing. Simply, I'm just creating. So in this employee class, I will create two variables and one method. String employee name. We can give some name. Rahul. Then integer employee number 1001. So these are the two variables we have created in this class. Then I will create one method to print something like employee created successfully, something like that. So public void print. So not taking any variables, simply we are putting one print statement. So employee created successfully. So simply we have created two variables and one method. Now, if we wanted to use this class, like this employee name, employee number, or print, these three things directly we cannot use. So we need to create the object for this class, then only we can use these things. Just like how I mentioned previously, the class is nothing but a blueprint. Blueprint means if you are planning something, so say for example, house planning, if you are doing, you will put one blueprint first. So you will put a plan, which room where it should come, what is the balcony, what is the length and width of the rooms, all these things you will put on a paper. That is a blueprint. Same thing here. We are having employee means we are saying it will have two variables and it is having some print method. But if we don't use it, this never gets executed. So we have to create an object, like we can create a blueprint, but until unless if we construct, then only the house will come. So the construction part is like creating object here. So this class is a blueprint. This we can use in some other classes, but directly we cannot use. We should create an object, then we can use it. If we have a blueprint, we can create any number of houses we want. If we have a car blueprint, we can create any number of cars. So this class is there. Then we can create any number of objects we want, we can create by using the object creation. So now to create the object, so we need constructor. So constructor where it will be used means if we have a class and if we wanted to create an object for this class, then this constructor is used. So it's very important method. If you want to create the object, definitely you need the constructor. Otherwise, you should not create. But here there is no constructor here. So for any class, you don't need to create a constructor. Every class will have automatically inside one constructor. So you don't need to create outside. You just have to use it. How we will use it? We will see in some other class. We will create some other, or in this method also we can have main method and create the object, or we can have one more class just to check. So employee test. I'm creating some random class with main method. So main method, if I wanted to create object for this class, I have to use the constructor. So for which class I wanted to create the object? So employee class, right? So employee. Then we can give any name. Variable name is our choice. So here the using of constructor. So if you want to create new, so there is a blueprint, you are creating one object. So it's a new, right? So we have to use new keyword. Then constructor means whatever the class name is there, method also will be the same. So employee, then like this we have to put. So which means constructor is a method which is there for employee class. But this method we cannot see because internally for every class, it will have one constructor. So by default, if you create a class, there will be constructor created internally. You can't see it, but you can use this new employee. So a constructor in Java is a special method that is used to initialize object. So initialize object is also same, creating the object is also same, or instantiation is also same. Both things are same. We can create this as object or instance. Instance means one replica of the class. So here we have created one object. Now, if you wanted to use anything from this class, like if you want to use the variable name, if you want to use the method, you can directly use by using employee dot. So if you want to print that employee name, so option is coming. So employee dot, employee name is there, employee number is there. If you want anything, you can print it. Otherwise, if you don't create this object, you don't have access to these things. So for any class, if you wanted to use whatever the variables or whatever the methods inside that class, you have to create the object for that class. Then only you can use. How to create the object? You can create it like this. So class name, for whatever the class you want to create the object, that class name and some variable name, we can give anything. New employee. So like this we can create. If you want to create, you can create one more object. Employee one. Because employee already we have used this one. So you should use different name. So now again new instance. Employee. So employee. So same class, same constructor, new object will be created. So this will be like, so there is a class. You cannot use this class directly. So simply you can create one instance of it and you can use. If you want, you can create one more instance. So one more. So like this, you can create any number of instances, but the class will be same. Creating the instance is also same. You just change the numbers. This is employee, this is employee one. If you want, you can employee two, employee three. Same class, but we are creating different objects. Same way, if we have one layout or like if we have some house a plan, then you can create any number of houses you want. Same way, objects also we can create. So this is employee is a method which will internally there in the method. So if you observe this, this is also a method. If you have this parenthesis like this brackets, it's called method. But in real time, if you see, all the methods starts with small letter. So that we have one rule. All variable names and the method name should start with some small letter. But only constructor will starts with capital letter because it's a class, right? Class, how we will start? With capital letter, we will start class. Only class we will start with capital letter. So that's why for only constructor method, we will start with capital letter. Remaining all methods, we will start with small letters. So these are some things we need to remember. Each and every class in Java will have one constructor. So string is also one of the class. We are using this, right? It's a capital letter string. If you open string, it will have one constructor inside it. It will have so many methods. So yeah, if you see string method, public string, it will have internally. If you don't want, if you want, you can write outside also. So now we are saying, right, internally the constructor will be there. So we can't see that. If you want to see that, you can create explicitly. But when you are creating, you should be careful that it should be same like class name. Otherwise, it won't be a constructor. Or otherwise we can do one thing, we can give right click, and then if you come to this source, you can see generate constructor. So this will be there, you can create a automatically you can create. So like this. So it will come. Super means it will create the parent class. If you remove this also, so this is a constructor. So if you create this, so if you don't create this internally, it will be created like this only. So you can create explicitly, or if you don't want, you can remove it. Even if you remove it internally, it will have this method. So you don't need to create explicitly. It will have internally. So you can remove this. But if you want, you can create. So this is one of the main concept. Like for every class, you have to remember one point. For every class, it will have internally one constructor. Because of that constructor only, we can create object for that class. Say there is an example. This we created. What if we don't have values here? Employee name is not there and employee number is not there. So we will say whenever you create the object, I will pass the values. You just create the object. So in that scenario, normal whatever we have created this constructor, we cannot use this constructor. Whatever they existed in Java, we cannot use that. We need to create our own constructor because it is not having values, right? Now we need to set these values. So for these things, we will use parameterized constructor. Means when we are creating methods, we are taking some inputs, right? Same way, we will create a constructor which will take the inputs. So any input we can take. Now here we have employee name and employee number, right? We can create a method constructor where it will take the values. So I will create, or if you run this in the in the source, you will have generate constructor using fields. So what all fields we have in this class? Employee name and employee number. You can generate. So it is creating two things, employee name and employee number. So what it will do is, earlier when we are calling simply without giving any values. Now we have given two values. So when we are calling this one, now we need to enter those values. That's why it is throwing error here because we are having parameterized constructor. So it is expecting one string and integer. So we need to add like this. So now when we want to create, we can send here only. So now here also it is expecting me to put two numbers. So now if I wanted to enter, now I can give different name. So now I can give Rohit because I'm creating different one, right? So 1022. Now if I put employee one dot name, employee one dot employee name. So earlier we are getting Rahul. Now we will get Rohit because employee is created with Rahul 1001. Employee one created with Rohit and 102. So now the values will be different. Earlier we are having only employee. We are not sending parameters. But every time we are saying every time you create the object, send new values. So that's why we created the object here, the constructor with parameters. So whatever the parameters we have, employee name, employee number, these two only we have, right? So that's why these two we are sending. And every time it is creating new values. You can create one more object with different names. You can create one more. So like that, you can create any number of objects with different names. So like this, we will have two types of constructors. So I will explain in brief. Every class we create in Java will have one constructor, and that constructor we will use to create the object for that class. What is class and what is object means? Class is a blueprint. It will have all the variable names and method names. Object is like using it. Like we are creating one replica of this class using in real time. So replica means like we have chair, which we will use directly. We have car, we have bikes. All these things are like objects. Whatever we have on the paper we write, blueprint is called class. So directly we cannot use the class. If you want to use any method or variable from a class, you need to create an object for that. Then you should use. How to create the object? So for whatever the class we wanted to create the object, we have to give that class name, then some variable name. This is our choice. Then new keyword, because every time we are creating new object means we have to use new keyword, then space constructor. So if it is a parameterized constructor, means if you are taking some values, then we should use that parameterized constructor while creating. Or else, if we don't have any parameterized constructor, then you can use normal constructor without sending any values, like I explained in the previous example. So this way, the constructor will be used. So around constructor, we will get few questions like what is constructor, why we will use constructor, and what is parameterized constructor. So it's very simple. Every Java class will have constructor internally, and to create the object for that class, we will use this constructor, and parameterized constructor is used to assign values to that class. So this is a parameterized constructor. So like this, it will work. So these three things, generally it will come for the theoretical questions. So that why this construct is used. So these three questions are made. So you can remember and answer those things.